Hey everybody, how you doing? I am with Collin Frangie with Ticor Title. He's an account executive, and he does a great job out there in our world of real estate. And Collin, I want to thank you for joining me. How are you doing, bud?
Thanks for having me, Joe. I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day out there.
Hey, listen, I wanted to talk to you about your mindset and just what you're doing. In the last 90 days, we've and 10 years from now, somebody will plug in and say, what the heck was COVID-19?
Yep.
But I think it's something that we'll continue to talk about. Like, my mom and dad talked about the Depression. COVID-19 was definitely a big deal in 2020. Who would have thought, right?
Yep. It's COVID-19. It's all that everyone talks about.
Oh, yeah. Hey, listen, Collin, so your way of doing business was completely, or us, all of us, the
Right.
way we do business was completely turned upside down, and it's like getting your heart and stomach and innards ripped out through your throat.
It was. Yep. 100%.
So what are you doing differently now? How did you pivot? And what was the mindset that you had to be able to do that? Tell me about that.
Okay. So just to give you kind of a foundation of like what I did before, or a backstory of what I did pre-COVID. So as an account executive, I'm responsible for driving sales in a territory, and to generate business, and also to maintain business, maintain clients. So to do that, the best way to do it is face-to-face.
Right.
So most of my business revolved around visiting offices. Normally I'd visit around 15 to 20 offices a day. If I had a meeting, it might be cut down to 10 or so. But that was the base of my business. So I would drive around to offices all day, drop in, talk to agents, help them with their problems, title problems, or drop off cuffs, which is what we're mostly known for. And that's how I would work my business, along with making calls in my database and new prospective clients. That was the foundation. So now fast forward to COVID, right? As of March, we went into a stay-at-home order, and no one was allowed really to go to offices from our company. Wouldn't allow us to go out there, and most offices didn't want to see us, because you never know if we're going to be carrying the virus, right? So that eliminated pretty much 90% of what I would do. And so I had to figure out a different way to generate business and to drive revenue still. And at first it kind of seemed like Mount Everest, to be honest.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what to do. And then I just kind of buckled down and went back to the basics of simply picking up the phone and dialing, and trying to make 40 contacts over the phone, not just in person, every day. And trying to just be a person that was helping, like just a support system, right, for other people, because people were going through tough times. They didn't know when they were going to get their next paycheck oftentimes, and a lot of deals were falling through in real estate. So I just reached out to people offering help, just to be a support system, trying to get people masks and gloves when I could, and just think outside the box. And that's kind of how I pivoted right when COVID happened. That's what I did from a process standpoint. Also, a lot of my stuff went on social media. I went to more so than before. I've always been a big advocate for social media,
Right.
But I got really disciplined with posting on social media, doing stories, showing people what I was doing as like behavior wise to keep my mind in the game. I always have worked out every single day at 5:30 to 6 a.m. That's when I'd start for an hour. And so not being able to go to the gym, which is where I would do my workouts because all the gyms closed, kind of threw me for a whirl. So to keep my mind right, I didn't have any weights. No weights were in the stores. They were super overpriced. They wanted $500,000 for a bench. Wasn't going to pay that. So I started doing just workout videos at my house, and I put weights or cans and like a wood Jenga set and some tools into a traveling backpack that I had. And I was doing like the videos with the backpack on, and then I was doing push-ups with the backpack on. And I just tried to like work with what I had, which is basically what I did with my business too. And just, I kept my regiment. So even though the gyms were closed, I still woke up at the crack of dawn to get after my workout. And I tried to keep everything as it was in order to keep my mind in the game.
That was really, really hard to do, was it not?
Yes, because it was so easy to slack off and just say, oh, yeah, like, I don't need to go out and go make office calls right now. I could just wake up whenever and just call from my house. I tried to get dressed every single day, and I tried to look professional every day because there's something about it that puts you into a mindset of like business growth that I liked, and I felt that.
So
I did it a couple times. I woke up and I just stayed in what I was wearing when I went to bed or what I was working out in, and it didn't feel good.
no, it doesn't feel good. And it's funny that you say that. It's kind of like, putting on a professional dress is like wearing a uniform on the field.
Yep.
And, the funny thing is, and you played football, and that
Yeah.
football means a little bit to me. And the coach will never, ever, ever look at you during a game if you don't have your helmet on. And you have no chance of getting in the game if you don't have your helmet on the whole time.
Right.
And, that's just part of being ready. And then standing, of course, next to the coach. I get some experience with that. You stand next to the coach. Hey, you gonna put me in yet? And being ready to go at all times, because
out of sight, out of mind. That's the key. Just like you said, staying next to the coach. That was making office calls for me, right? Was being next to the coach. Now I couldn't do that physically, so I went the social media route. I was doing a video every single week at one point, until I got shut down for some reason. And
you're back.
and so that was my way of staying in front of people, which was working. I got a ton of responses, which I was super grateful for. Right. And that's kind of how I pivoted, right? Was instead of being in person, just being online.
So the other thing I want to just chat with you really quickly about is just the balance, and you appear to have some pretty good balance in your life. Tell me about that. Tell me what you're doing, in your off time. That really empowers you to be even better during your on time.
So Monday through Friday, I go really hard. Once every 2 weeks, I go hard on the weekends, and then when I'm not doing that on the weekend, I like to dirt bike, get into nature, go explore, get away. And that's really kind of equals me out. And just forgetting about everything for a short period of time allows me to come back to the workplace supercharged. Mm-hmm. I know that real estate agents, they work on the weekends mostly, and that's their prime time. And so it's harder to do that. But when you do find time to just distance yourself from everything and be able to just be with nature or be in your hobby, it's really refreshing. It's. So
then we go back 7-8 years ago when you started in this business. Mm-hmm. And I think you had a lot more challenges in the business than you anticipated, don't you?
I did. I didn't have any weekends for the first 2 years. Years 1 through 2, I worked 80-hour weeks every single day from 7 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, because I was really just building out a database that I didn't know anyone. So imagine coming home and having to put in 30 to 50 contacts every single day of people you didn't know. That's that's what I would do every day. And so that was, man, that was a workload. And then during the weekends, I would go from 5 to 10 open houses a day. And that's how I would get to meet newer agents that had listings, which was what I was, in order for me to earn a title order or earn a paycheck, the listing has to close.
Right.
So that's the whole thing, is have a listing and then be able to help them close the listing. Right. So weekends was my prime time. That was the main time to go work.
So how do you deal with that? And, you can't tell me that you haven't had some self-doubt along the way. We all have that going on in our head from time to time. What's your method of keeping that self-doubt out and keeping your attitude, at its very best, and your mental shapeness at its best? How do you do that?
Great question. So there's, I think, two things that really help. One, I've had a great support system. My parents have, in a way, like whenever I've been down, I've been able to call them and they both sold title. Right. So they know the struggles of the business. So whenever I've been down, I'd be able to call them and they'd be able to talk me through it. So super blessed to have them. And then number two now, which is more of a recent development in the last couple of years, is that when I get turned down or frustrated or whatever, I'm uncomfortable. And my mindset has changed. Instead of not liking being uncomfortable, I like that feeling. So I like to go, if I'm being uncomfortable, that means I'm doing something right. Mm-hmm. So it was a little bit of a mindset change of being frustrated with being uncomfortable to now I like being in that position of being uncomfortable. That means I'm doing something right.
So there's a lot of talk about just that, being uncomfortable or being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Right.
So
yeah, that's the idea is to grow, you have to be uncomfortable, and nothing makes you more uncomfortable or disheartened than failing.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right.
That's where the interception comes in.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a guy that's doing the intercepting, and then the guy who just got intercepted. There's two ends of the spectrum going on there.
100%.
Anything else you'd like to share with us before we close it down this afternoon?
I think nothing I really have off the top of my head.
You read much?
I read a little bit. I listen more. I listen to podcasts. I listen to audiobooks. I haven't really been listening to a lot recently. I've just been kind of, which is not the best thing. I've been more just focused on the grind.
Right.
I used to listen on my drive into the territory. that was kind of my listening time.
Right.
The last book that I listened to was Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. Mm-hmm. It was a great leadership book. Prior to that, I did David Goggins.
Guy's a beast, man. You recommended that to me, and I read that. It's like, holy mackerel.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite ones.
You're right. There's no excuse when you read that guy's material. There's no excuse. Our stuff is so minor compared to what that guy was experiencing.
Oh, 100%. Oh, one thing I can leave you with really is burn the boats. So whenever I think about something being impossible, or if I'm getting frustrated or stressed out about the amount of tasks or things I have to do, or a goal that I have to reach, I just think about burning the boats. Just like there's nothing else I'm going to do until this gets done. Because if you want to take the island, the best way to do that is to set your ship on fire so that you have no choice but to take that island.
True story. I like that thought process. Hey, Collin, thanks for sharing that stuff with me. I really appreciate it, man. You're doing good.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on, Joe.
All right, man. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Charge on.